Good afternoon, morning, or evening, everyone. It's nice to meet you. I'm Teacher Andrew, and today we're going to be doing some Roblox Studio together. We're going to be building some games in Roblox. So if this is your first time, then that's perfect, because we're going to start from the very beginning. We're going to go through the controls of how to use Roblox Studio. We're going to do some basic stuff with parts, make some buildings, and then we're going to take a look at one of the template levels and see if we can make it more interactive. So without further ado, let's take a look at Roblox Studio. Behind me, you can see this is what you would see if you open up Roblox Studio for the first time after you log in. Here we can see that we've got a bunch of different templates, so starting places for your projects. Now, looking at these, we've got two base plates. They just introduced a new one last week. It's pretty good. We're going to be using it today to start with. There's some flat terrain here if you just want a flat area to do stuff on. We've got a village, castle, suburban town, pirate island. There's some game templates in here too. If you want to see what goes on behind the scenes of an actual working Roblox game, then yeah, gotta take a look at this racing tutorial. Galactic Speedway is good, Line Runner. They're really good ways of sort of getting started with a game that's in that same sort of style if you're interested in that, because it has the more complicated parts done for you already, and then you can make tweaks to it as needed. So let's go ahead and check out the base plate 2021. Now this looks like a lot. It's just loading in. We've got this editor here, and there's so many things to do here. There's so many different options. Don't be too intimidated by it though, because you're gonna get real good at it real quick the more you use it. Just giving you a general tour. Over up here in the top, we've got a file menu. This works like basically every other computer application you'll ever use. You can make saves here. You can make a new file if you want to. We've got some other options here: forward, backwards, play, stop. And then we have this toolbar here where we have a bunch of different options depending on what we want to do. If we want to do just general stuff in Roblox Studio, like move things around, this is the home tab's good for that. If you want to make models, model tab's there for you. If you want to test out your game, you can do that with the test tab. View is where you can actually pull up and take away windows. So if you don't want all this stuff, then you can just turn them off by clicking on the buttons here in the View tab. Or if you lose one, you can always get it back this way. But what do all these windows mean? What do they do? So in the middle here, we have our main scene view, I guess. It's how you would be able to see what's going on in Roblox in the level that you're building. So you can move the camera around. Now this is just your sort of working camera. It's not the camera that your player uses in the game. That camera is created when the player's model is brought into the game when they join. So you don't have to worry about that. This is just how you are able to edit the level. But you move it around using right click. You hold down right click and you drag, and then it kind of turns your head as if you're looking around. And then if you want to actually move, you can use W, S, A, and D. Hold on, why is this a classic base plate? What is going on here? It should be the new one. Give us one moment here, everyone. Ah, look at that. There it is. This is what we wanted. This is the base plate that we wanted to use. Okay, that's so strange. Huh. Well, here we can see this looks much better. This is the new 2021 base plate. We've got this nice floor texture that's really easy to space stuff out on. We've got our spawn point, and we've got the infinite void of nothing. It's our job to build something in here. So, as I was saying, move around using W, S, A, and D. You can tilt your head to turn. You can zoom in and out using the scroll wheel on your mouse. And that's about it. If you want to get a specific perspective, you can actually use this little six-sided box up here in the corner. This is really handy if you want to be very precise about your modeling. If you want to see what something looks like from the exact side or the top or a diagonal, this is the way to go. You can even move this around if you don't like where it's put. Then we have our two most important windows that aren't the main one that you look through. We've got our Explorer tab and our Properties panel, or Properties tab. These are really important because this is actually how we know what's in the game. So this shows you everything that's in your Roblox game, even the stuff that's behind the scenes. The stuff that we actually see in our level is here in the workspace. Everything that we see in the game is in the workspace. All the rest of this stuff is behind the scenes. So you can really see that you're only really scratching the surface when you play a Roblox game. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. We've got our terrain. If we wanted to make terrain, we can use this. We've got our spawn location. We've got our base plate. If I go up here and make a part, our part shows up here in the workspace. And if we want to make changes to the part or get information about it, then we actually use the properties panel down here. This gives us information like the material, everything down to whether it casts a shadow or not, its color, material type. Let's make it glass. Let's change the brick color to red. Let's make it really reflective. Whoa, look at that. That's cool. You can even make it transparent too if I wanted to. Slightly see-through. And then I'm gonna use, I can click up here and I can change how I can interact with the block. I can make it larger by scaling it like this. I can click and drag it to move around. I'm going to use this spacing to make it interesting. There we go. Now we've got this red glass box. And if I click play, I can run it. And we can control a character just like you would if you were actually playing a Roblox game. Pretty cool. Looks pretty good too. So, moving on. In the properties panel, we have all these things that we can change about our part. We also have other things that we can use to get information, like it tells us its exact position and its exact rotation. We can also tell it whether to be anchored or not. Anchored is whether it will have whether it will stay in one place, or is it going to be affected by physics. When something hits it, or if there's gravity, it'll fall, or if something is toppling into it, it'll also fall over, stuff like that. So the real beauty about all this, though, is that any of these properties that you see can be changed in a script during the game. That's the power behind Roblox Studio, is that not only can you build a level, but you can also make it interactive and become a living world in and of itself using scripts. And that's the journey that we're going to be starting today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Let's build ourselves a little building. So we've got our spawn point. I can move it around if I want to. I have a red window here. Let's go ahead and make some more parts. I'm going to make another part here. Line it up. Let's scale it. Oh, you might have noticed that it didn't actually click scale when I did that. What I did do was I used a keyboard shortcut. Now, I'm not going to show you how to set up keyboard shortcuts for these keys specifically right now, but there are some that you want to use. One of them that I use all the time is duplicate. So on a keyboard, if you hold Control and D at the same time, it'll make a new part that's an exact copy of the other one that I have selected in the scene. So I need another wall, Control D, duplicate. If you're on a Mac, it's Command D, same thing. Or if you don't want to use the keyboard, that's okay too, because there's a clipboard up here in the top corner of the screen where you can actually click duplicate and it'll duplicate for you without the keyboard shortcut. So there's really a lot of ways of doing the same thing sometimes. Especially that's generally the case with most computer programs. Is a lot of the time there's at least 2 or 3 ways of doing the same thing. You can click it. You can use a keyboard shortcut. Let me duplicate this. If I want to have a symmetrical building, I don't have to. What am I even building right now? I'm not sure. It's sort of like a candy cane barbershop thing. All right, let's go with it. You never know what you'll make, you know? All right, let's keep going. So I'm going to rotate it using the rotate tool. Now, you might have noticed that when I do that, or when I select any of these movement buttons, there's some guides that come up. There's these, in Rotate's case, it's these wheels. Basically, what these represent is each axis that you can move something on. Red is the x-axis. That's left and right. Green is the y-axis. That's up and down. You will be very familiar with these from school. If you do any graphing, the x-axis is always side to side, left and right. The y-axis is always up and down. The blue arrow, or the blue wheel if you're rotating, represents the z-axis. The z-axis is the third dimension, and we use it every day as we go about our daily lives. And when you're using a 3D modeling program, or if you're using Blender, or if you're using Unity, Unreal, or Roblox Studio, all of these use X, Y, and Z to represent 3D space. Left, right, up, down, and forward and backward is Z. So that's something that's useful to know. Let's go ahead and duplicate these. Just make a simple building here. Again, I'm not entirely sure what this is, but we'll find out when we're done, I suppose. Let's put a little bit of a roof on this. So I'm going to duplicate this wall. Okay, let's go up like that. Let's scale it down. Let's bring it all the way across. It's kind of like Legos, you know? Pretty cool. Let's duplicate that, bring it across. All right. Let's duplicate this, bring it up, bring it down, bring it across. Whoa, hold on. What is that? Ah, inconsistent. Bop, there we go. Duplicate, bring it across. Just building a house right now. All right. Very good. So let's put a roof on it and see what we can do. So I'm going to select this little button here. I didn't click on the part button. I clicked on the menu underneath of it. And we can see we have these simple shapes that we can use. We can use wedges, cylinders, spheres, and blocks. All these simple shapes are all you need to make really cool, complicated things in Roblox. You can actually combine them using some of the tools in the modeling tab, but we'll get to this some other time. But there is one thing in the modeling tab that you should know about and should use when you can, or at least know about it. There's notice when I switch from home to modeling, we get a fifth type of selector, I guess you could call it. Basically, this is another way of moving, rotating, or transforming a shape. So if I click transform, it gives me this grid. This grid is super useful because it lets me actually know how far away something is directly. So you can see it can get really specific about where you place it, because here I can use it to sort of see that this is an equal distance from this wall as it is to this wall. I can also scale it directly using the little nubs here. I don't know what else to call them, so I feel like you can call them nubs, you know. I don't know if they like to be called nubs. I feel like that'd be mean. All right. So we're gonna move this up here. Let's use the transform tool to get it up here. Let's bring it down by one. Sure. It's not perfect, but you know, it's all right. It's our first house. Your first house is always a little bit strange looking. I'm gonna also change its material here. I feel like this needs to be a little bit less, a bit cooler. Let's do a brick roof. Well, I don't know if I'd want to live in this house, but I think it's fine. All right, I'm gonna duplicate that. That's more or less equal to me. I'm gonna flip this all the way around. I'm just clicking and dragging on the arrows. And the wheels, there we go. That looks like it's about 2 studs. That looks like it's about 2 studs. Now we've got this middle part that's awkwardly shaped. Let's go ahead and grab this beam, duplicate, bring up, bring it around like that. Make this stylized a little bit, I think. Let's bring it out a little bit more. Let's bring it down. There we go. Whoa, look at that. Cool. Let's bring it all the way down. There we go. Interesting. Let's bring that in. Bring this in. Now there is something that I haven't been doing that I should have been doing this whole time. And I'll tell you what it is in a moment. Let me just finish with this. Oh, that's very red. Okay, let's do like a nice brick color that's not so intense, you know. Let's do that. And then this can be sort of a let's do like a tan color for these bricks. There we go. Let's make these walls. These walls can stay white for now. Okay, so we've got a very interesting looking house so far. But as you can see, as I've been making parts, they've been added to the workspace and they're all over the place. If I needed to find a specific part like a window or a door or anything else, I'd be out of luck because I didn't name any of these. They're not grouped together. There's no organization. As you build your projects, it's important to name your parts as you build them and organize them as you go, or else you're going to actually be spending more time figuring out where things are in your project than actually working on your project, and that's no good. So let's go ahead and I'm going to shift click to select all my roof parts. I'm going to right click and click group. That groups them into a model. A model is a grouping of parts together. I'm going to take this model, I'm going to click on it, I'm going to name it roof, bark, bark. There we go. All right, on our way. Let's go ahead and start selecting our parts for each part of the... Sure, I'll just make the rest of this one thing, you know? I don't see why it needs to be, we don't need to get so specific that each wall is individually modeled. Right click, group. I'm going to say these are the walls. And then I'm going to select these 2 models, the walls and the roof. I'm going to right click and I'm going to group them together into another model. So now we have a model that's made of models. And I'm going to name this house. It's questionably a house. I think it technically is. Let's go ahead and play it and see what it's like. You know, it's not so bad in here. I like the light I get from these red windows. I think that's kind of cool. We're lacking doors, but that's fine. You know, it's not like I have anywhere to go or anyone's going to come by and visit me here. But you do notice that we've got some problems here. Specifically, if I run into these walls, we are going to have a problem when the house comes down on top of me. Do you think I can destroy the house by walking into it? Let's find out. I might be able to. Everything in Roblox has physics. Unless you tell it specifically not to be using them by anchoring the parts, all of the parts will act like they're loose and just kind of sitting there like building blocks. You can also weld parts together. That will make them attached to each other. We didn't do that when we built this house, though, so that's why I'm able to move these chunks of house around. And you can see that my house is slowly falling apart, and it's going to come collapsing down on me any minute now, I'm sure. But we're not going to wait around for that. So what I'm going to do to prevent that from happening is I'm going to go into the house, I'm going to go into the roof, I'm going to select all of the parts inside of it, and I'm going to go over here and click anchored. Now the roof is anchored. You You can also go to the roof model and click anchored. Same thing with walls. I'm going to click anchored. Now all of the parts inside the model are also anchored. And the house itself, anchored. So now if I go in, we shouldn't see any of the seams between the parts. They should all be one nice piece. And it looks like that's what's going on now. Okay. Yeah, so there's all sorts of cool things you can do. Before we, I do want to save this for later though, this house, because that's actually one of the most useful things you can do in Roblox is you can build models, you can make little tests in different scenes, and you can save them to Roblox, and then you can either publish them in the toolbox, which is how a lot of people build out their Roblox games, is they'll actually look at in the toolbox and see what other people have created. And they might remix something someone else has made, or maybe they'll use a model that someone else has made, like this pine tree. You could use that if you want. I'm not going to, though. I prefer to use my own parts. But once you save something, you can actually go and see the things that you've created yourself before. Like, for example, I made this cool building here during another live stream. And now I can add this one to my collection. So get a little collection of buildings for a town, I suppose. But let's go ahead and save this. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is right-click and then save to Roblox. It's going to ask you, what is this thing that you're saving to Roblox? This is a house. I'm going to say strange red house. I'm going to say who thought red windows were a good idea. Anyway, it's not a very good description. Doesn't tell you about it. Who created it? I did. Genre, all? Or I could, I don't know. What genre would this be? Is it ninja? Is it ninja? No. Fantasy. I'm going to say this can probably go in most things. Allow copying. I don't usually allow copying on my stuff because I change it fairly frequently. And allowing comments, I don't want to bother with that. If I already have this model saved, I can actually overwrite it by clicking this button and update it. I do that pretty often. I'm going to submit it. And now the strange red house is going to be available to me in the toolbox. So if I want another one or a lot of them, I can just bring them in whenever I want into any of my projects. So really, the more you build, you're going to be building a toolbox for yourself to be able to use all over the place in all of your creations. So now I can bring in another one from here and another one, and I can actually make a little town. But before we do that, I think now is a good time to take a look at some of the template levels, because we wanted to breathe some life into one of them, because they're definitely worth looking at. Let's go here. Let's open from Roblox Studio. We can close out of the previous one here. I don't need to save. I already saved my model, so I don't need to save the scene. I don't have anything there I want to use. I'm going to use the castle template because this is definitely one of my favorites. If we go in here, it loads up. We have all sorts of stuff. This is a fully fledged castle. We've got our helpful forester here who's telling me how to scale things. We've got grass. That looks so good. Look at that skybox. This is beautiful. This is such a nice place to go. And if we look at the castle, we've got a keep, we've got a house, we've got all sorts of things. And we can even go inside the castle. Dun, 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 dun. And these helpful people tell you all about how to use Roblox Studio. So if you're looking to get into Roblox Studio, there's lots of different ways of doing it. You could obviously just jump in and follow along with a tutorial or something like that. Or if you want to kind of go your own way, then look at the template levels. They have a ton of different things in them like this that you can find. This teaches you about materials and how you can use different ones. We've got a staircase here, and if you look at these these parts here, you can see that these are extremely detailed. This archway, where is this archway? It's probably somewhere in the tower. Let's see if I can find... Okay, so this is this parapet. This parapet has all these unions, which are basically advanced. They're like a type of model. Basically, it puts them together. We can see all these little details here, and we can select them in this hierarchy. And hierarchy is just an ordered list of things, with things inside of other things, if that makes sense. But what can we do to make this look a little bit nicer? I think these houses would be better outside the town. This looks like a stable or a blacksmith of some kind. This looks like a tavern, but we gotta keep here. I guess it's fine that they're inside, but let's give our forester something to do out here. So I'm gonna bring this house outside. Let's rotate it around. Look at that. All right. We've got this building here. Let's move that over here as well. We're just gonna make our little town outside the city. And all I did was I clicked and dragged it outside, and now I've changed the level to be sort of more my style. Oh, you know what would be great? It'd be really cool if we could move this gate using a script. Let's try and do that. Let's do that. Now that I've taken out these houses, though, let's replace them with the ones we made. Let's put in our cool temple here. Let's shrink it down a little bit so it's not so big. It can't be bigger than the castle. And then let's bring in our weird, like, strange red house. Honestly, one of these buildings looks better in here, but just for our tutorial or our little adventure here, let's put this in here. Let's scale it down a little bit too. There we go. Whoa, too small. It's not a dollhouse. I mean, I guess if you wanted it to be, you could. It's also good to have these guys around so you can kind of get a sense of scale. This guy looks worried. He just saw me pick up houses. He's like, "What are you doing to my castle? Help! Who is this strange ghost flying around, ruining our protected castle? We built these walls for a reason." All right. Anyways, let's look at this gate. So if we click on the gatehouse in the level, it takes us to this point in the Explorer tab, and I can actually open the gatehouse up. I can see all of the different parts that are inside of it, and then I can look. What I'm looking for is something called the portcullis. A portcullis is a gate on a castle that goes up. So if we see here, you can actually see that inside we've got ropes and stuff. I'm not going to be using the ropes to move it up, though. I'm going to use a script instead. And all we need to do, essentially, is we're going to move it up like this. Boop. Except instead of doing it in the editor, we're going to do it with the script. So how do you script? You might have heard the term before, but you might not have actually seen it done. So what we do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the portcullis, and I'm going to click this little plus to add a new script. But before I do it to the portcullis, I want to do it to a part. I want to actually move a part from the ground up. Let's do that first because it's good to sort of take things one step at a time. One of the nice things about programming is that a lot of the time it's just a matter of asking a question and then finding an answer. And that question that you ask can change. You can redefine your problem depending on what question it is that you're trying to answer. So I've made this part. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click the plus button and I'm going to add a script. If you don't have script pop up at the top, you can always type script here. And we want just a script. It comes up with hello world. As soon as I run this script in the game, I don't have my console up. If I go to the View tab and click Output, we should see Hello World here. Ta-da! There we go. So that script works right off the bat. It says Hello World. It's done its job. But what we want to do is we want to move the part. So what we need to do is we need to first start by looking at the properties of the part itself. How do we move a part? Well, when we look at it in the scene and we use the move tool to move it around, let's stop the game. Notice that its position, which, I mean, right now, hold on, there we go. Notice that its position values are like this. But as soon as I start moving it up, it's changing the second one of those numbers. It's changing it from around, like, what is that, 17 all the way to 25. That's because I'm moving it up on the y-axis, and this is actually a group of 3 different numbers. It's an x number, a y number, and a z number, but they are grouped together into a special type of data called a vector. A vector is a group of numbers. Vectors are used in physics all the time to represent a force and a direction. In math, vectors are used all the time when it comes to like graphics and stuff like that. And in Roblox, in Unity, and game engines, it's used to describe a position, maybe a rotation. It could even represent a color, because a color has 3 values too. It has a red, a green, and a blue. So vectors, we use them all the time. We'll use it in the script too. So if it doesn't make sense right now, you'll see it used. So here we can see this is what we need to change in our script. We need to change this y value to move it up. That's what's changing. So let's go into our script and do that. Well, the first thing we need to do is we actually need to tell the script where to what is it going to be moving. So one way we could do it is we can actually just tell it where to look. So what we can do, I'm going to scroll all the way up here and collapse some of these down so we can actually see what we're doing. When you are working in a template, it can get really messy because there's so many parts. There's a crazy number of parts, but we've got our part here. So let's make a variable. Local means that this variable that we're about to make only exists in this script. Local, and let's name it part. Let's set it equal to this part in the game, because this is the thing we want to move. So we need to reference it. We need to tell the script that this is the part. So how do I do that? I say game.workspace. So in the game, looking at the workspace, which is this thing here in the hierarchy, look for something called part. Or to be more precise, let's rename this to be log. Sure, it's a log. Log. And you can see as soon as I type it in, we actually see it suggest log here. So now this part represents the log. And if I wanted to, I could have it print log.position. And it should tell us, oh, part.position, sorry. And it should tell us the position of the part. Hopefully. Hey, there it goes. It told us 82, 17, 20. And if I look at the position of our log, 82, 17, 20. There we go. So we know that that is working. So it said in the game, in the workspace, there's a thing called log. This is now equal to part. So instead of having to type out game.workspace.log every time we wanted to do something to this log, we can just say part.position instead of game.workspace.log.position. So we can make our lives easier. But what we want to do is we want to actually move it. So let's take part dot position equals part dot position plus, and now we're going to give it a vector 3, a group of 3 numbers. Vector 3 dot new, and I'm going to give it, and here we can see the keyboard shortcuts are giving me an idea. It wants an X number, a Y number, and a Z number. So I'm going to give it, let's give it 0, comma, let's add like 10 to it so it goes up pretty high, and 0. So nothing, no change in X, 10 units up, no change in Y. That's what we're looking for. I just realized that I do a lot of my hand movements down here, but you guys can't see that. So I'm just kind of, I need to gesture up here. All right. I'm going to stop the script. I'm going to run it and we're going to test it. We're going to see what happens. So wait a minute. What happened there? Let's stop it and run it again. Run. It looks like it starts up there. And the reason why is because as soon as the script loads, it does this. And then when the game starts, physics take over and it falls down to the ground. So if we want this, if we want to actually see it go up, we actually have to use another built-in Roblox function. We have to say wait 1 second. Wait, and then wait is a function built into Roblox, and then we have to tell it how long to wait. And we're going to tell it to wait 1 second. Let's try it again. Okay. It's something. It still fell down. How do we get it to stay in the air? Any ideas? Well, one way of doing it is you can go into the properties panel and just select anchored. But what if I want it to stay up in the air and then fall down? The way I can do that is I can tell it to be anchored at the beginning. Part.position.anchored. Oh, sorry, I want it to move up first. So we're going to wait 1 second. Oops. We're going to anchor it. Part.position.anchored. Sorry, not part.position. Part.anchored is its own thing. Equals true. So the first thing that happens, it loads, it waits 1 second, the position is changed, it takes whatever position it had and it adds 10 to it in the up direction, and then it's going to wait again. Let's wait 3 seconds, and then I'm going to tell it to fall. Part.position equals false. And then we're going to say hooray. Hoopla. There we go. So it's going to say hoopla at the end. That's how we know it's done. Let's see what happens. Starts on the ground, goes up in the air. It's anchored. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why are you taking so long? What's going on here? Oh, I've got an error. Hey, look at that. Okay, so this is good. So now it's telling us, we noticed that something was wrong. It wasn't falling. It says the error is workspace.log script line 7, invalid argument number 3. Vector 3 expected got boolean. So it wanted, oh, did I say position? Oh no, I said position equals false. Position is expecting 3 numbers, but we didn't give it that. Okay, I'm going to say anchored is false. There we go. It's always good to check your work before you hit play. But, you know, we all do that, so. Okay, let's look at it. Up in the air. 1, 2, 3. Hoopla! Look at that in the console. All right. We're in business. So now we have basically what we want our gate to do, except we got it on a part instead. So let's see if we can get this to work with a part, or with a model, I should say. So I'm going to go over here and let's go to our portcullis. Let's grab our script. I'm going to copy this like that with copy. You can click copy. You can also do Control C on the keyboard. And then I'm going to stop it from running because I don't need to be running right now. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to just click on the gatehouse. I'm going to find the portcullis. Oops. I'm going to find, there it is. This is the portcullis here. On the portcullis model, I'm going to click plus. I'm going to click script. I'm going to replace it with the code from my log that we just coded. But if I run this right now, it's not going to work because it's still looking for the log in the hierarchy here, right? It's looking for this thing called log way out here. We don't want to have to bother digging through all the folders to find the portcullis because that's going to be a nightmare, especially if you need to do this sort of thing for multiple parts in your game. There is an easy way of setting up your variable at the beginning to reference the part that your script is attached to. And the way we do that is we just say, instead of game.workspace.blah blah blah, we say script.parent. The parent of an object is the thing that is above it in the hierarchy. So for example here, this script's parent is portcullis. And portcullis's parent is gatehouse. Gatehouse's parent is the walls folder, and the walls folder's parent is the workspace. And we can actually see this here in the data section of the properties panel. It tells us what the parent of this particular part is. So this is super useful. It's great because I don't need to know where it is in the workspace. I just need to know, the script just needs to know that the part that it's attached to, this script's parent, is what we're going to be changing using a script, using what we're going to code here. So I'm going to keep the variable part though. I'm not going to rename it because I don't think we need to. Let's see what happens when we run it now. It moved up a little bit, didn't it? But I got an error. So this is where things get a little bit tricky because we're not just moving one part anymore. We're moving a lot of parts. We're moving a whole model, in fact. And that's why I'm getting this error. It says position is not a valid member of model workspace.walls.gatehouse.portcullis. And that's true because if I actually look at our portcullis in the hierarchy here, this portcullis is a model. It's not a part. I mean, so it's not. It doesn't have a position property, so we can't use that to move it up. We're gonna have to move it a different way. And the way you can move models is kind of a little bit more advanced, but it's something we'll totally be able to do right now. We're gonna need to use something called a C-frame. A C-frame is short for coordinate frame. Basically, it means it keeps track of the position and the rotation of an object. And we can actually get it to move things using the primary part here. So there, when you have a model, there's one part that's sort of like the main part, and everything moves relative to it. So we can do that. Let's go ahead and do it. So I can actually keep this script set up mostly the way it is. I'm just gonna have to change a few things. I'm gonna space things out a little bit though, so we can clearly see different sections of the code. We've got our top here, which is where we define our variables. We wait 1 second, then we do our movement stuff, and then we wait some more, and then we undo the movement by just telling it not to be anchored. So instead of doing part.position, what we'll want to do is do part.primary. Let's see if it lets me do primary part.position. That'd be funny. We might not need to use C-frames after all. I know I mentioned them, but if we can get away with just doing this, That would be cool. Okay. So what I just did is I told the I told the portcullis to use the primary part's position instead of, because the primary part does have a position. And if I were to find it, actually, I think this might be the primary part here. It's one of these unlabeled parts is the primary part. Okay, let's run this and see if it gives us an error. This is an experiment. I haven't tested this in particular yet. Okay, it didn't work. It says hoopla though. Anchored is not a valid member of wells.gatehouse.portcullis. So it doesn't know what anchored is. Let's see if we can do this. Can we do primary part dot anchored? Let's try it. It might work. The primary part does have an anchored property. Let's run it. Okay. I didn't get any errors, but I also didn't notice it moving. Okay. Let's tell it to move significantly more. Let's tell it to move 100 units up. We can't miss that. If we tell it to move 100 units up, we'll be able to see it. Oh, no. Oh, wait a minute. Is it because it's anchored? Is that the problem? I can see it's struggling to move right now. And actually, I found our primary part. It's all the way up here. Wait a minute. That's not supposed to happen. Okay. So that might not have worked. It seemed to have just taken one part and not the whole model. That's interesting. Let's see if we can change the position of the whole model using a C-frame. I might have been on the right track before. So I'm actually just going to add another property in here. A C-frame, like I said, keeps track of the position and the orientation, like the rotation of an object. C-frame dot position dot C-frame dot position. Okay. Let's see if this works. Position can't be assigned to that. Oh, I have to assign the whole C-frame. Can't do position. Let's do this. And then this needs to be a new C-frame. C-frame dot new. And then I have to give it a vector 3. In fact, you know what I can do? Let's go ahead and just tell this what C-frame to be. I'm going to say, let's take the primary part C-frame, the coordinate frame. Let's give it a vector 3, which is its new position. I think... Let's pay attention to the tooltips here. What does it say that it needs? Dot new. And then inside the brackets, is it going to tell me what I can do? It's not going to tell me. Okay. Let me pause this script, though. I'm actually editing it while I'm running it. That's not good. Okay, so let's try doing a new C-frame. Let's give it a position. So let's do vector 3 new. This is what I was doing before, but it expects 3 numbers, so let's just give it that. Let's do 0. No, 0 will put it at 0. Let's give it a position. primary part dot position dot x. This is giving it the x position in the C frame. We want it to move up, so let's do primary part dot y plus like dot position dot y plus let's do 10, and then let's tell it to do the same thing but with z. Part dot primary part dot C frame dot position, and that's we got to give it the z value because this is the third one. Let's see if that works. It might complain because I don't know if it needs. Oh, it works. Look at that. All right, perfect. And then it falls down. Excellent. Okay, let's see that again. All right. We wait a second. It goes up. After about 3 seconds, it comes down. Clang. Very good. We've got our village waiting for us out here. Our forester is no longer stuck outside without any shelter. He's got a couple different choices. We've got a very confused steward here inside the castle. And now we have a working gate. So I think we're all set. I think we've made this place a lot more interesting. So just to kind of go over what this did, because it's a little bit advanced. We've got a variable here that is referencing the part that it's attached to using script.parent. You can use this trick in any script that you want to where you want to change something about a part in your game, whether it's the color, the position, the rotation, the transparency, whether you can walk through it or not. You can use this to reference a part. Script.parent, as long as the script is attached to the part that you want to change. We wait a second, then it basically changes the C frame, the position and the rotation of the part by using primary part.cframe. The primary part is the main part of a model. It's the part that all the other parts of a model move along with. And it's how you can actually change a model's position. C-frame is, like I said, position and rotation. And then we set that equal to a new C-frame. We give it 3 numbers. We give it a X value, which is its X position. Its current X position, so wherever the portcullis is on the X-axis. We give it a Y position and add 10 to it. So we take the current position of the portcullis and then we add 10 to it. So that's what's happening here. Oops. That's what's happening here. And then at the end, it's kind of long, we've got another primary part dot cframe dot position, and at this time it's the Z axis. So it's the portcullis is X axis, the Y axis plus 10, and then the Z axis. So it stays in the same sort of area, but it just moves up by 10. And then we say anchored, so it stays in position, so it just doesn't come all the way down right away. Waits 3 seconds, and then it'll come down after we unanchor it. And then it says hoopla in the console, so we know it works. And there we have it. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you learned something in Roblox Studio. So go out there, build something amazing, play with the template levels, and see what you can build.